So today we're going to talk about something called Medicinal Application Moxibustion, which actually doesn't use fire at all, so there's no smoke, but it's still an external heat therapy that's applied to points. It's just the heat comes from the chemicals in the herbs rather than the, fire and flame. Um, there are three major types. One type is you can take fresh leaves, this is some mint, and roll them into balls and tape them on. One type is a moist substance like garlic or ginger that you can mash and tape onto a point. And the third type is a herbal powder that's mixed with a liquid into a little thick dough or paste, and that's also taped to the point. So there's a related thing that's called heavenly moxibustion, tiēnjiu, heavenly moxibustion, where you actually make blisters because the herbs are very strongly irritating to the skin. That's a much more powerful thing, but it also, it can go wrong. You can cause too much irritation. I've seen that happen. And so I'm not going to talk about that today. It's a good thing, but you need a little bit more skill. So maybe I'll talk about that some other time. That is, some of you may have heard of Sanfu Moxibustion, this thing that's applied 3 times in the summer to treat chronic lung conditions. So that's the heavenly moxibustion, and that will make much more of an irritation or blister. But what I'm going to talk about today is a more mild kind. So this kind is called medicinal application moxibustion, and I'm going to go through the methods one by one. Let's talk about the leaves. These are mint leaves. They're unusual for medicinal application moxibustion because mint, as you probably know, is actually cooling. So these are fresh mint leaves you can buy in the farmer's market or in the grocery store, or you can grow them yourself. And these are actually used if somebody has, for example, a wind heat type headache, or they have red swollen painful eyes that's due to wind and heat, or due to liver bothering the eyes, or this kind of thing. Then you would take a leaf. Here's like a relatively big leaf, and I've washed them off, okay, and then you just kind of roll them and crumple them, and when you do that, it kind of will, the leaves become a little, the cells, I guess, become broken and some of the juices come out. And so, maybe this piece is a little bit big. I'm going to break it in half. I could use it. I'm going to do it on Tàiyáng, although it gets in the way of my glasses. So since this treats the head and eyes, you are going to do it on points in the head and eyes like Tàiyáng or Yin Tang or something like that. And therefore it does look a little bit ridiculous. But, if it works, I really smell the mint. So, you would just take some medical tape. Let's see if I can get some off of here. And, it doesn't have to be beautiful or neat or anything. And you can, just put the little ball of herbs on the tape. And then just, can I get this on under my glasses? Hold on a sec. Can't see you now. Okay, right there. You just tape it on. You can do it on both sides if it's a 2-sided headache or if both eyes are affected. Tàiyáng not only treats headache, it treats the eyes. I don't know if you can see with the light. Anyway, it feels cooling and refreshing. It feels good. It smells good. It smells better than the garlic one. I mean, garlic's good to eat, but I don't want my body smelling like garlic. So anyway, the mint one is pretty good. And once you have the idea of using a fresh leaf, you could use other leaves. You could use rosemary or, whatever. If you're growing some Chinese herbs, fresh leaves from a Chinese herb. Depending on the properties, you would tape it on different places. So That one's pretty simple, but you need a fresh leaf. So that's the first method. Another method then is using a moist substance like ginger or garlic. You do have to be a little careful with garlic because garlic can and does irritate the skin. So if you leave this mint leaf, I could leave on for a long time and it wouldn't cause any harm. I might look silly, but it doesn't cause harm. But if it's a nice juicy garlic and you leave it on for a long period of time, it will cause like a sensation of heat and some itching, and then if you remove it there'll be some redness, and that's actually to be expected and part of the treatment. If it does make some redness that lasts for a while, then the treatment is continuing even after you've removed it. But garlic you wouldn't leave on indefinitely. You would take it off after a couple hours, depending on how potent you think it is. When it starts feeling hot and itching, you can take it off and wash it off, and then it'll go through a process that takes some days to heal. But it's not like it won't make a big sore or anything like that. Ginger you can use also, and that won't make an irritation. So basically when you take it off, it's done having effects, but the kinds that leave a little bit of irritation keep having effect on the point after it's been removed until it's healed. So you just get garlic, and hopefully it's a fresh one that's a little bit juicy, and you get a clove of it and you peel it, and then you could either slice it or you could mash it, and you probably want to cut a piece the size of the point, because if I just smash this and tape the whole thing on, it would have a pretty big area. So I think I'll just cut a little slice. When you cut it, then the moisture is there. If you don't cut it, if you just put this whole clove against your body, it's got even though the papery skin is removed, it's still not good. It's got its own little skin. So I could take this piece, I could make it a little bit smaller. Okay. Sorry, that's noisy. So now I've got a little square piece, and actually garlic on Li5 is a treatment for toothache. Like if it's really red and swollen and painful and inflamed, the gums are inflamed and so forth. Remember, garlic detoxifies. So again, I could just tape it on, or I could use a bandage. So let me tape it on. This isn't the best medical tape dispenser, but oops, I'm a messy person, as you already know. So, you put it, you find the point, you put it on the point, and then you tape it on. And like I said, when it starts feeling red or inflamed or itchy, then you can remove it. This will sometimes make some itchiness, which I don't like feeling itchy, but that does mean it's being stimulated and working. So that's the second type, and you could use any moist substance that has medicinal properties, selecting it based on what you're trying to do. Okay, the third type, and the type that's used the most, actually uses an herbal powder, a liquid, and you make a paste or like a dough with it, and then you tape it on. And this one has so many more options. There are only so many moist things, and there are only so many fresh leaves that you can come across, but you can make a powder of anything. So this kind you see very, very commonly in Chinese clinical studies, or mentioned in books. There's so many recipes. So here I'm not here to talk about all the different recipes. I'm here to show you the method. So the recipe we're going to use is wúzhūyú and niúxī. I'll write that and I'll put the proportions in the what do you call it, description for the video so that you can see that written out. And so basically you make a bunch of the powder in advance, and you can put some in a little Ziploc bag and send it home with your patient. So that's one of the good things about this type of treatment, is a patient can do it for themselves as part of their self-care. The problem is not every patient is motivated and compliant, and so you have to decide, is this a patient who will actually do it or not? So I have this powder, and we don't need much. I'm just gonna do it for, basically one dose. So I have just a little spoonful of it. This is ground up herb powder. This is not granules. Granules will just dissolve. So I'll talk about granules in a minute. Anyway, I've got a little bit of powder in the bowl, and then I didn't tell you what this is for. This one is supposed to help lower blood pressure, especially when it's something like liver yang rising, and it's going to go in kidney 1 Yǒngquán. So the next thing is we need to make a little paste. You want it thick enough that it won't drip and ooze. You want it a little bit thick, so you don't need a lot of liquid. This one is mixed with rice vinegar because it goes to the liver. Let's see if I can get some out. Yeah, I can. Okay. And so then I'm just gonna, I wish you could see, drip some in and then stir it. Maybe I should switch hands. I'm better at stirring with my right hand. Drip a little bit more in, stir it. We're getting there. I'm just being patient, which is unlike me, but oh well. I can really smell the vinegar. Okay, so I'm starting to get a little glob of it, which is what we want. I'm only going to do it on 1 foot. Some sources don't talk about that, but apparently in some people this formula can precipitously lower blood pressure if you put it on, especially on both feet. So I'm just going to put it on 1 foot, and then this is usually done at night when you use Yǒngquán. You put it on just before you go to bed, and then you take it off in the morning, so you don't need to walk on it all day long, and it just is working while you sleep. Maybe it has something to do with the liver's time being 1 to 3 in the morning, the liver channel's time. So anyway, you would use 1 foot the first night and the other foot the second night, and back to the first foot the third night, and so you just alternate the feet. And you can either kind of tape it on, but this is going to mush out and make your sheets look like somebody made a mess in them. So another way to do it is you can use gauze pads and tape them on a little bit nicer than just using the tape directly. But if you're lazy, or the patient isn't going to do that at home, you can get bandages that come in different sizes. But one thing you really want is to make sure that like all 4 sides have adhesive, because if it only has adhesive on 2 ends, again, it's going to mush out and mess up the sheets and so forth. So, they come in all different sizes. You can decide what you want. Let's see if these are big enough. Since I'm just using a small amount, I think this one will do. And it does have tape on all sides. So let's see. Okay. So I've got my Band-Aid, and then I'm going to fold back the covering. And so now you can, maybe you can see, you know, there's a little pad there in it. Okay, and I'm going to try and get this little lump of herbs onto that pad. Let's see if I can do this. You don't want it too big or else you can't really seal it on all four sides. So, you know, this isn't beautiful, but I think I can tape this on. I'm going to mess with it a little bit more. There. I think that's a little better. And it's not going to really ooze out. And so, okay, then, oops, I'm still in my pajamas, aren't I? So, you know, Yǒngquán's right about there. And kidney 1, and so I can just tape this and try to get the lump right at kidney 1 and pull off the strips, and then I would just make sure it's sealed on all sides so it doesn't ooze out, and then there I can leave that on until tomorrow morning, except it's morning now. I'm just demonstrating how to do this, and then wash it off in the morning so that you're doing it 8 hours once a day for a while. And you know, it may help and it probably won't hurt. And you know, if somebody's just starting to get high blood pressure and you they don't want to go on blood pressure meds, then you could, this is one of the things you could do in addition to whatever internal formula you want to give them. Or maybe they don't want to take herbs internally, but they might do it externally. So, you know, there are other recipes for other things, but this is basically how you do it. Another place that's commonly used is Ren 8, or the center of the umbilicus. And again, you can make a little ball of herbs, whether it's a leaf that you roll up, or whether it's a moist substance, or whether it's a powder that you make into a paste, and then you put it in the umbilicus and you tape it over, and often those stay on for like 2 days or 1 day. You don't take it off at night, you know, it just stays on, and then you take it off and remove it and put a new batch in. But any point could be used. You just have to decide what are you trying to do and get herbs that do that and use points that are considered useful for that particular thing. I said I'd talk about granules. You know, many of you have granules, I'm sure, in your clinic, and you may not have, you know, herbs, raw herbs, individual herbs, or you may not have a way to powder them. So granules can be used, but what you're going to need to do is mix them with a binder, because if you just put some moisture in granules, they just become gloppy. They don't, they dissolve, and they don't have their own body. They don't have their own yin substance. They just dissolve. So you need a binder, and you know, you could use different things. You could use white flour, for example, and just mix white flour with whatever granules you're going to use, and then add a little liquid, and then you can make a little herbal paste or cake that way. Or you could use some other thing. You know, I don't know what people use who want to avoid gluten, although this is for external use. But if you really wanted to avoid gluten, you could, you know, use ground up rice powder, or, you know, whatever, arrowroot, you know, I don't know, that's up to you, but that's a way you can use granules. And one thing that I think, I don't know if this is, you know, kosher or not, but yeah, he wants to participate. One thing is that if your granules are expiring, this is a way to use them, and I don't think anybody's going to worry about expired granules for external use. But if you worry about that, then don't do it. Anyway, that's Medicinal Application Moxibustion, and you should give it a try. He likes the mint.